Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're an AQA A-level psychology student aiming for those top bands, you are in the perfect place. Go ahead and turn your subtitles on, make sure you're clear of any distractions, and let's get completely focused. Today, we're going to master a really fascinating specification point together, the development of social cognition. We'll be zeroing in on Selman's levels of perspective taking and theory of mind. I'm going to guide you through the theory, the application, and the evaluation step by step.
Here is our roadmap for today: activating prior knowledge, AO1 core explanations, AO2 application and exam skills, AO3 evaluating the theories, stretch challenge and quiz, followed by a practical study and summary.
Activating prior knowledge.
Before we jump into the new theories, let's quickly build a bridge from what you already know. Think back to early childhood cognitive development. You probably remember the concept of a child struggling to see the world from another person's physical or emotional viewpoint, that classic state of early childhood egocentrism. Well, what we're looking at today is how a child actually crosses that bridge. How exactly do they move from being entirely locked in their own head to developing a sophisticated, nuanced understanding of the social world around them? The umbrella term for this entire journey is social cognition. It's the process by which we interpret, understand, and predict the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of others. Honestly, it's the absolute bedrock of human interaction. Without social cognition, we literally couldn't cooperate or show genuine empathy. It's exactly why a toddler plays hide and seek by just covering their own eyes. They genuinely think if they can't see you, you can't see them. So we're going to explore two major frameworks that explain how this incredible ability develops in children.
Core explanations.
Watch how I break this down, because these two terms are definitely related, but they are distinct. First up, we have perspective taking. Championed by Robert Selman, this is all about understanding social situations from other people's viewpoints. It's focused heavily on interpersonal understanding and navigating social dilemmas. Second, we have theory of mind, often just called TOM. This refers to the cognitive capacity to attribute unseen mental states, things like beliefs, desires, and intentions, to yourself and to others. So think of it like this. Perspective taking is about the social dynamic, while theory of mind is about making that unseen cognitive inference. Let's look a bit closer at Selman. Based on his famous Holly and the Kitten dilemmas, where children were asked how characters might feel in tricky social scenarios, Selman proposed a universal sequence of 5 stages. Starting at level 0, aged 3 to 6, we have egocentric perspective taking. Here, children just assume everyone shares their exact thoughts and feelings. Moving up to level 1, ages 6 to 8, social informational perspective taking emerges. They realize differing perspectives exist, but only because people have different information. Then, level 2, ages 8 to 10, is self-reflective. A child can now mentally step into another's shoes and actually know the other person can do the exact same thing. Level 3, ages 10 to 12, is mutual perspective taking. Here, they can step back and look at a two-person dynamic from the viewpoint of an impartial third party. And finally, level 4, ages 12 and up, is societal perspective taking. Adolescents realize that viewpoints are shaped by broader cultural and moral values. This whole sequence perfectly illustrates the universal stages of cognitive decentration. Now, let's switch gears to theory of mind and see how this builds. TOM emerges in specific milestones. Before 2 years old, infants really just recognize goal-directed behavior. By 2 to 3 years, they start to understand that people's desires guide their actions. But the crucial shift, the real game changer, happens around age 4. This is when most children can finally pass false belief tests. The absolutely classic study here is the Sally Ann task by Baron Cohen, Leslie, and Frith from 1985. It tests whether a child understands that someone else can hold a belief about the world that is actually false. Passing this is the ultimate test of first-order false belief understanding. To wrap up our AO1 phase, let's compare them side by side. Both frameworks describe a fundamental shift away from egocentrism. However, Selman's theory really focuses on social reasoning. It's about how we solve interpersonal dilemmas and navigate our relationships. Theory of mind, on the other hand, is a slightly different construct. It focuses on the cognitive mental representation, specifically our ability to understand that other people hold distinct and sometimes totally false beliefs. Application and exam skills. Imagine a classic playground dispute where a child shouts, "But it wasn't mean. I wasn't upset, so he shouldn't be." This brilliantly illustrates Selman's level 0, that egocentric reasoning we talked about. A 5-year-old genuinely lacks the cognitive structure to understand the other child's distress. For teachers, this AO2 application is absolutely vital. It means younger children aren't usually being deliberately malicious. They simply haven't reached level 2 where they can anticipate others' feelings. Teachers can use this knowledge to implement clever behavior management interventions, like role play, rather than just jumping straight to punishment.
All right, let's tackle a research methods linked AO2 question you might actually face in your exam. A researcher wants to test theory of mind in a 4-year-old using a doll and a marble. Explain how they would conduct this study and what finding would indicate a developed TOM for 4 marks. Notice how it's asking for both a procedure and a specific finding. Let's look at how we tackle this systematically to guarantee maximum marks.
Here is your step-by-step cognitive process. Step 1. Identify the methodology. You'd state that you're replicating a first-order false belief task based on the Sally Ann test. Step 2. Describe the procedure clearly. Doll A places a marble in a basket and leaves. Doll B moves the marble to a box. Doll A then returns. Step 3. Define the critical measure. You ask the 4-year-old, where will doll A look for her marble? And finally, step 4. Provide the required finding and link it. The child must say the basket. This indicates a developed theory of mind because they successfully attribute a false belief to the doll, completely overriding their own knowledge of reality. 4 clear steps, 4 clear marks.
AO3, evaluating the theories. So let's start with the strengths. Both of these theories have immense empirical support. I mean, the Sally Ann test has been replicated in dozens of labs globally. They also both beautifully identify qualitative changes in development. They show that children's minds don't just gather more facts, the very structure of their reasoning actually transforms. Plus, this has huge practical applications in education, allowing schools to use targeted social skills training and role-play interventions to really boost perspective taking.
However, we always have to be critical. A major limitation here is the high language and task demand. Selman's dilemmas and the Sally Ann test both require really heavy verbal comprehension. So a child might fail not because they lack social cognition, but simply due to linguistic immaturity. That's a classic confounding variable right there. We also have a major issues and debates linked to consider: cultural bias. Selman's higher levels are heavily based on Western individualistic norms. In collectivist cultures, group perspective taking might actually develop much earlier, which definitely challenges the universality of his stages.
There's also a fantastic synoptic link here to the psychopathology topic specifically regarding autism. Baron Cohen and his team in 1985 found that autistic children frequently fail first-order false belief tasks. An impaired theory of mind powerfully explains the characteristic challenges autistic individuals face with reading social cues, deception, and joint attention. This just shows how TOM deficits diverge from typical developmental trajectories, making it a truly crucial concept across the entire AQA specification. Before we move on, I really want to clear up a common misconception. A lot of people think that empathy and social intelligence in teenagers are simply a result of emotional maturity. But the reality, as Selman and Tom research prove, is that empathy relies fundamentally on profound cognitive structures developing. You literally cannot truly empathize if you don't possess the cognitive hardware to mentally represent another person's false belief or to coordinate multiple societal viewpoints. Stretch, challenge, and quiz. Take a moment to ponder these reflective prompts. You don't need to answer them right now. Just let the ideas marinate. First, how exactly might collectivist cultures, which prioritize group harmony, fundamentally challenge the timeline of Selman's Level 4 societal perspective taking? And second, here's another synoptic thought. How might Bowlby and Ainsworth's concept of early secure attachment, where a parent constantly reads an infant's cues, act as a scaffold for developing theory of mind later on?
All right, time for a quick rapid-fire quiz to consolidate today's key facts. I'll read the questions, pause briefly, and then get you the answers. Question 1. What age bracket is Selman's Level 1 social informational perspective taking? Question 2. What specific cognitive ability does passing the Sally Ann test demonstrate? And question 3. Name one methodological limitation of Selman's dilemmas. Okay, let's see how you did. For question 1, Level 1 is ages 6 to 8. For question 2, passing the test demonstrates first-order false belief understanding, or a developed theory of mind. And for question 3, a key limitation is the high reliance on verbal reasoning, which acts as a confounding variable. Great job if you got those.
Practical study and summary. Here's a safe, ethical, and classroom-friendly practical study for you. Try designing your own simple first-order false belief task. You don't need dolls for this. You can just use everyday objects like a coin and 2 cups. Test it out with a younger sibling or a willing peer. Focus heavily on standardizing your procedure. Make absolutely sure you ask the exact same critical measure question every single time.
This is a brilliant way to practice your research methods terminology while seeing cognitive development in action. And that brings us to the end. To summarize, for AO1, we covered Selman's 5 levels and theory of mind. For AO2, we applied this to playground conflicts and the Sally Ann methodology. And for AO3, we weighed empirical foundations against limitations like language demands. Thank you so much for your focus today. Before you go, consider this. As artificial intelligence becomes more and more advanced, do you think we will ever be able to program a machine to possess a true functioning theory of mind? See you on the next one.